Greetings, readers and travelers, and welcome to episode 2 of the level 2 of Stats on Stats. Today, we have a new episode of Boss Encounter, and if you don't know what Boss Encounter is, is our main show where we bring authors on to discuss some of their work. And today, we are joined by Emily Godhand, also known as EC Godhand, who writes the Heartfire Healer series that takes place within the Viridian Gate online books. But before we dive into that, we just have a few quick things that we're going to go over. Joel and I will be doing a giveaway here soon. Our YouTube channel is now live, so we have set a couple of goals. Once we hit 200 followers on Twitch, we're going to do a giveaway of a entire series or what's up to date of a series on Kindle. When we hit 15 subs, we're at 4 right now, on Twitch, we're going to do the same thing. And then when we hit 100 subscribers on YouTube, we're going to do the same thing. So there's 3 giveaway chances that we have going on right there. But speaking of subscribers, if you have Amazon Prime, you have Twitch Prime. So you get 1 free Twitch sub a month, and that'll give you, you can support us if you want. That would be great. If not, it's okay. We won't get too mad or anything. Just a smidge. I'm kidding.
I might cry.
Yeah, see, you don't want to make Emily cry. But let's go ahead and dive in to today's show. But actually, before I do that, I probably should introduce my co-host. I mean, you know him. He's cool, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I do a show with him. I've known him for almost 10 years. Joel Harvey. Joel, how we doing today?
Oh, feeling a bit put out, but that's okay. I'm excited to be here on this episode.
I mean, we're excited for you to be on this episode. I mean, I'm always excited when you're on an episode because it's you and me. It's our show. So I probably should be excited that you're on the show. I guess. I don't know. But joining us for the first time on the show in, our boss encounter, Emily Godhand. Emily, how are you?
In there. Been get a little sick, but I'm doing all right. Doing better.
Well, we are glad you're doing better. I mean, you're out there doing like some of that good work and, being a healer yourself in a way, I guess.
Yeah, I mean healer in real life, so that's why I wrote healers. Yeah. Right, what you know.
Well, we like healers. I mean, we don't get enough healers in books, so that's why we were excited to bring you on to talk about the Heartfire Healer. I remember when this was first announced, because I follow the Shadow Alley Press on Facebook, but also I'm in like all the lit RPG groups, or a majority of them, I guess. And when they were like, "Oh yeah, there's a new book in the Viridian Gate series," but here's the thing: it takes place it's following a healer, and like a healer class. I was like, "Oh, ooh, I like that," because I never really main healers unless I'm like doing like a paladin, but I do like a split tank / heal build instead of just straight up heals because I can't play priests. I can't play priests. I'm bad at it. I'm really bad at it.
It's a lot of math.
Yeah, and I'm dyslexic, so it doesn't help. So, Joel, how did you first hear about the Heartfire Healer series within Viridian?
Well, the first time I heard about it was when James pitched it to me whenever I was at his booth at DragonCon. He was like, "Oh, you like kind of some crunchy stuff? Well, you should check out this book over here." And he was like, "Oh yeah, and that's Emily at the booth." And so yeah, so that's how I got introduced to the book and met Emily and asked her to be on the show. But yeah, so like first impressions of this book, so I had no idea what I was getting into. Be like a normal slice of life, like healer, like just go along with her buddies and healing up the party, kind of like a heal bot. But then I was like, oh wait, no, it's VGO, so everything's like gonna be super apocalyptic and like everyone's got their own shit going on. But yeah, it gets crazy.
It starts crazy.
It does.
Yeah.
And I will say, so in the Viridian Gate universe, it starts out depressing. Like, it is straight up depressing. If you don't know what happens at the start of the Viridian Gate universe, in the books, a meteor is going to collide with Earth and straight up murk it. It's, just like poof, you're done. But this company was like, oh yeah, we're going to send out immersion capsules and everything so you can like fully integrate yourself into the world of Viridian Gate Online. There's not a 100% chance that you'll get in. It's pretty much, if you get in, you get in. If not, you're dead. But I mean, you're going to die anyways because Earth is going to be destroyed. So yeah, like, let's start a series off that way, because that's not depressing at all.
And it's not only that, because like the main character in the Heartfire Healer is a doctor, so she's actually like seeing the worst of everything that's going on with like the end of the world.
Yeah. So Emily, what was your inspiration for, writing Dr. Chen, who is our main character?
So originally, the story of how this even got pitched to James is I really. I had been working with him back in Colorado doing conventions, and I really loved his VGO stuff. And I'm like, where are there healers in VGO? There's no healers in VGO. And he kind of had this look of like, oh, and I was like, can I write a healer in VGO? He's like, yeah, sure. So I bought him a Subway sandwich and said, hey, on your lunch break, can I come over and I'll pitch the story to you before you finish eating your lunch? And he was like, okay, that's fair enough. Absolutely loved it. And I just really wanted to write a healer character, because when I had asked for healer characters in the past, people be like, oh, well, you should read this one. I'm like, well, that's the healing factor. That's not a healer. Oh, you should read this one. Well, that character has like a history of being an EMT, but they're not a healer. Oh, well, you should read this one. They're a spell sword who has like one lay on hands ability, but that's not a healer. Like, I want a healer. Like, I want anyone who had played a healer or mained a healer, anyone who was white mage or disc priest or holy priest or anything, where they were the healer main. What would their experience be like in a game? So I wanted to write that. And so people often think like, oh, you just hit the heal button and everything's fine. That would be super boring. And I'm like, then you have never played a healer.
All right, so I don't know if you can see the chat or not, but Lane BC, who's a good friend of mine back home, just said Dende, and I had to laugh because there's a series called Dragon Ball Z Abridged that Team 4 started, and they just take like episodes of Dragon Ball Z and just dub over it. Well, there's a little Namekian, he's the little green guy, named Dende, and in that series, he refers to himself as the white mage because he's a healer. So now that you're talking about healers and stuff, Lane is going Dende.
Funny.
And my gamer tag on Xbox for a while was actually White Mage Dende, because nobody fucks with the White Mage. And that is an actual line from the series.
And it's very true.
Because, I mean, yeah, the White Mages are scary. Everyone's like, oh yeah, Black Mages are more scary. No, White Mages are scary because they definitely make sure that you either live or die.
Yes.
So
Yeah. One of my favorite pitches, do no harm, take no shit, definitely sums up the healer class, where everyone thinks they're going to be so sweet and caring and like the mother of the group. And I'm like, they can be, but you ever piss off your mom? Doesn't go well for you.
that's me on a daily basis. I'm low key like pretty sure my mom secretly, she loves me but hates me at the same time. No, I'm kidding. I love you, Mom. Please don't yell at me. I know I'm gonna get into the text later. Anyways, so as the book opens up, it's following Dr. Chen as kind of like the aftermath. They've locked down the hospital that she works at because, there's looting and a bunch of stuff going on. But just shit's going wild. And that's one thing I like about the Viridian Gate universe is it's not a happy-go-lucky isekai or anything like that. They're not trapped in a game. The world's going to hell. It's done. The world's done, and a select, group of people are able to upload themselves into Viridian Gate Online. And there's, of course, the main series that James does, and then there's a couple of the spin-off books, which there's the Pyromancer one. I had the list, but my Kindle is being stupid. I apologize. My notes are like, hey, yeah, no, you don't get this. So we have the Illusionist series, we have the Imperial Initiative, the Firebrand series, and then the Alchemic Weaponeer. I have read most of the main series, and I think the first book in the Firebrand series, but that's it, of course, and the first book in the Viridian Gate series, because I mainly do audiobooks. That is a big thing that Joel and I talk about because we work nonstop. We're both busy people. Joel, why don't you go ahead and talk about some of the mechanics and the healing factor that Dr. Chen gets when she gets into the game?
Yeah, so I think mechanics wise, as far as like VGO goes, I really enjoy this class. Yeah, so like in the main series, what was the main character's name? James or
Jack and VGO?
Jack? Yeah.
Grimjack.
He's the Grimjack. Yeah. He's the basically like a Dark Templar shadow Templar class, and a lot of his abilities he has like shadow teleport and like applying dark damage to your weapon and like a firebolt or like a dark bolt, and then he gets like a dark tornado later on. And then but the class for the healer is really like just I don't know, it feels more like depth to it. There's like the different I don't know what they're called, the like charity and like grace or
Charity.
like the different parts of the healing class. I'm trying to think of like I don't know.
I can tell you about it.
Yeah, tell us about it.
Why don't you tell us about that?
So the inspiration for the mechanics was basically people think, oh, you just cast the heal spell, but there's different types of healing spells. And there's also, it's better to mitigate damage than to try and heal and make up for it. Because if you can prevent it from ever happening, then you don't have to waste your mana or in this case, spirit, trying to make up, because there's probably more damage coming in. So everything starts with charity is actually a biblical. There's a lot of biblical quotes because I like themes. But so everything starts with charity, and which is a basic love of humanity, and that's your basic direct heal. You cast the heal, they're fine. And then you have prosperity, which was like your heal over time. It has some sort of tick where every few seconds they get extra heal. And those are your two main abilities, your direct heal and your hot. She also ends up with like a holy shield, which is basically your disc priest bubble from WoW, where it absorbs so much damage and eventually pops. And there's a couple more mechanics that come into that where you can't just constantly bubble everyone. You get the like Sola Fide debuff, which is by faith alone, where your bubbles popped and you have no damage mitigation for like 15 seconds or so, and you're surviving by faith alone. Good luck. And then my favorite ability of hers is acuity, which is the medical term we use to describe like how sick someone is, what's the acuity of the floor. And that's kind of like your triage, where it let her see like the health bars and the debuffs of her teammates. And everyone's kind of like, oh, that's such a useless skill. Why would you ever need to do that? If they're hurt, they'll tell you. Well, having worked with hurt people, they don't always tell you. They try to hide it. They try to tough it out. They don't tell you that they're feeling sick or hurt. But she's able to see that regardless, and get like a bunch more information on people than oftentimes they're willing to share.
Yeah.
In-depth mechanics.
Oh, it gets better once you get into the bigger books, because book 2, she gets a new depth to her mechanics that I won't spoil for you guys since you haven't. The audio still hasn't come out yet. And then I have book 3 that I finished a few months ago that we're trying to get out, and that gets even crazier with the mechanics she gets. I had so much fun with the mechanics because I used to write for game studios, so I love studying game mechanics. That's one of my favorite things, is making the math work and making the mechanics like viable for a game.
You used to work at game studios? Which studios?
I signed an NDA and I'm not allowed to
okay.
talk about
Then
anything.
that's fair. That's fair. Those damn NDAs. So we'll jump back to the character development and stuff, because Dr. Chen, when she is getting into the game, there's a lot that happens before she gets in, including one of the heartbreaking scenes that broke me in the middle of an aisleway at work, and that is Margaret.
Yeah.
The nun. I liked her character, but I knew something was off, and as soon as she came into view, I was like, oh yeah, she's gonna die. She's gonna die. And I knew it was coming, and it still broke me. I love it. I love it. It makes me feel like I can feel stuff. Anyways, so once we get Lysette, right? That's how you pronounce it? Lysette. I don't know why I say Lysette, but yeah, Lysette. Once she gets into the game world and starts to, create her character and stuff, she gets a whole list, which I had right here. Kindle, please do not betray me. I hate this thing.
Are you looking for her divas?
It was when Robert Osmark was talking, and it kind of goes through. Oh, she can choose between when she chooses her class and everything, and she chooses the Dawn Elf, right? That's the one she chose.
This Dawn Elf.
Yeah, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce the actual race name.
Ep2.
That, because I will butcher it, and I don't want to.
I wrote the VGO Bible. I can tell you anything you want to know.
Well, give us a little background on the Voltifar.
So there actually wasn't a whole lot of Vidalfar in the main series, which is why one of the reasons I wanted to go with it. The other reason is I pronounced it Lysette, that was my WoW character way back in the day with Wrath of the Lich King, and she was a Blood Elf. So yes. Yes, best expansion. Ulduar is the best. And so I wanted to just basically put my character in because I thought she was cool, a little nod to her. But the Vidalfar are basically the Dawn Elves, and they originally were on the continent in the new what was now called East Viridia, I guess West Viridia, because the Viridians came from the east. So now they're in the continent of West Viridia, and then they allied with the Empire to expand west and take over Eldgard, which is how you get the ever victorious empire, that and versus like the rebels of Eldgard, where the Rhodes and the Dolgulfar, the Merc elves, and the Cipiter and all them.
There's
Yeah, nice map. It's upside down.
Is it? No.
Yeah, West Viridia is actually on the east.
Oh yeah, it was on the east. It's just the way that the camera.
The mirror.
Yeah, it has that mirror effect.
But so they have like this kind of conquering colonial mindset of taking over, and the Vidalfar are kind of known for being a little racist, where they kind of have like this supremacy. And there's a bunch of lore in VGO about how she didn't really know what race she was getting into. She was like, oh, well, this one's pretty. It looks nice. I can kind of look like me. Who doesn't want to be an elf? And turns out the elves are like supremacists and actually kind of like super devoted to their elders. And there's this whole lore that
feels like, I don't want to say a stereotypical trope, but the elves always think they're better than everyone. Like in a lot of stuff, like even before like I knew about Lit RPG and everything, the elves were the high and mighty. It didn't matter if they were the elves of Rivendell or the wood elves, Oh shit. What's his
I think I'm in the youngers.
What's that?
From my experience. Well, I think I'm better than my youngers from my experience, and I'm not exactly very old. So if I lived 500 something years, I might kind of view everyone else's children and have, think my experience brings wisdom. So like I get it, but also kind of annoying to have this whole race of people think they're better than you.
So they're the first class, got it. Just making sure. But that's one thing I do like is I always say that's one thing I do like. There's a lot of things I like, which is why we're talking about it. She doesn't go with the stereotypical trope of a elf. She's like, oh, yeah, I am not better than you. I'm new here. I like games. I don't know what I'm doing.
I mean, this is very fair. I mean, she's got she's come from, her hospital's in Manhattan. She comes from basically Brooklyn, across the stream, and very, very New York attitude of, that's not my business. I'm not getting involved in it. And so she's very kind of laissez-faire with the people, the very strange people she meets. She just kind of rolls her fence, like, okay, that's how it is here. I've seen worse.
Yeah. I mean, before she even got into the game, she like experienced like a lot of stuff. Like there was the shootings and everything at the hospital and why they closed down the doors, which I'm not going to spoil all of like what happens because, you gotta read the series. It's good. It's really, really good. And it doesn't jump into everything right away. There's a little bit of backstory, and I really like that. I really, really like that because it either has really fast pacing of, oh, we're jumping right into the game world, all that fun stuff, or we're taking our sweet time before we get there. No, this book has like some of the best pacing, like leading up to the events of what happens within the game world. And
it matters.
Pacing is everything, in my opinion, either with character development or just the world building as a whole. I care about the pacing, and it's actually turned me off to certain books before because I'm like, it's either taken it so long before it actually pulls me in, or it pulls me in way too quick and I lose interest very fast because the beginning is so quick and then it slows down. I'm like, no, I want that nonstop action. That's what I want. I want the nonstop like thrill ride. Joel, what do you think on that?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with you. The pacing in this book is just outstanding. From day one, she like gets into the shit at the hospital, and that leads her into VGO, which even there, like, it is pretty hectic as far as her trying to find her feet, because everyone else has pretty much already been in the game for a bit. And yeah, so she's kind of having to like steal to get like on her way, and then she'll get basically thrown into combat, which I guess is like pretty like much what happens in every lit RPG, but yeah, and then besides the combat, there's also this other backstory, which I don't know how much we want to get into that, but there's there's the old leader of the hospital, who is actually
her boss.
Her boss, and he is leading the church that she finds herself at, and he kind of is in charge of who all was able to come to this world. So he knows that like she made her way into like the VGO world despite him not giving her like access, like putting her name on the list of people that he allowed to join the game, because he basically picked people who were going to be subservient to him. And yeah, so besides just the craziness of VGO, there's still an entire like cultist religion thing going on. I didn't know if you wanted to elaborate more on that, Rich or Emily.
I will say that the leader, her former boss, is a douche. He's a straight up. I feel like I shouldn't share my entire thoughts on the character because I have a lot of choice words I want to use for him. But yeah, he straight up sucks. And Emily, I'll let you share the character with us before I go on a 5-minute rant.
I actually would love to hear a 5-minute rant. But so the characters in the game, his name he took was Jericho. And so I love the chapter called Road to Jericho, which is from the biblical parable of the Good Samaritan, where all the priests and the government and anyone who was supposed to be able to help didn't help the Good Samaritan, but the Good Samaritan stopped and helped the man anyway, and that makes him a better person. And so Lisette basically like stops and helps the people on the way to the temple where she's supposed to like be inducted and get her class officially there. And so it's called Road to Jericho. It turns out Jericho's an absolute douchebag, complete narcissist cult leader, handpicked all of his cronies who, like he said, would be subservient and do what he said when they got in the game, because they're just so grateful to have a place on the arc, because their other option was death. And she never really got along with him, mostly because I personally don't like hospital administrators for many other reasons.
I don't like hospitals. I'm terrified of
that's
them.
fair. That's fair. And so, she gets in. He's got his own idea of how you're supposed to heal, and he's very, there are rules that cannot be broken. And it's pretty much everything that people think you're supposed to do to heal and play a healer class. And basically one of the things is, remember your ABCs, always be casting.
Yep.
And if you're not constantly spamming heals, then you're useless, get out. And it's like, that's not how that works. And you have to know like which healer you're supposed to use and conserve your mana. And
don't you have to also, like, don't they have to pay you, like, for every heal you use?
Oh, yes. That's another major part is one of the things is in VGO, the main character, Grimjack, in the main series, he doesn't really need a healer. He's got, a plethora of merchants and alchemists at his beck and call with the Crimson Alliance. And so they have all the health potions they need. But, the Heroic Brewer Circle, which is part of the Empire, so the Crimson Alliance don't have to worry about upsetting them. They're already upsetting them, opposing the Empire. But given that Lisette is part of the Empire by default when she joins, excuse me, she, if you don't charge for healing, then you're basically putting the Heroic Brewer Circle out of commission because they charge 3 gold for every health potion.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is that if you have to pay for healing, then people are more likely to take better care of themselves because you got those tanks that rush in and pull way too much, assuming that you're just going to cover them. You got the rogues that stand in fire and sit there and yell at you, why aren't you healing me? Well, I am. I'm just taking care of the fire damage. I can't also then take care of the monster damage. Get out of the fire, dumbass.
So every Genji in Overwatch. Got it.
Yeah. And so they have, if people have to be held responsible for the risks that they take with money, then the idea is they'll take less risks. And so, but, Jericho being a businessman sees that there's opportunity here and he's not going to miss that. So, he matches the thing. Every heal is about 3 gold. And if you want a stronger heal, he's going to pay more for that. And so then, of course, they have to pay tithes to the church because it ends up being more like an MLM, where you got, a parallel to all of the healthcare workers in America who basically went into debt with student loans to learn how to help people who don't really want to be helped. And so they have to stay in the job to pay back their debts of what they learned to do the job so they can get paid to pay back, and it's just this constant loop cycle. And then ultimately they're not actually helping their people. It's just about a matter of, making the most money, because if you're just spamming heals, you're not actually like doing what's best for your party. You're just going to go out of mana, burn yourself out, but you make a whole bunch of money for the cult.
Yeah. So we have someone in the chat that said Jericho is the worst, a really creepy villain. So with that comment, I mentioned I was gonna go on a 5-minute rant. I'm not gonna make it 5 minutes, but I'm gonna say what I want to say about this man. So Jericho, her former boss, is a straight up cuck. I don't care what anyone says. He is a straight up cuck. I'm putting everything on the board right now for my character development title that I had given myself. But this man gaslights, straight up accuses Lisette as a murderer because Margaret gave her pod to make sure that, she could get into the game. And he was like, oh, well, you murdered her. You pulled her out of the pod and everything. No, she did it because she's a good person and she was terrified of you. So she would have rather died than to have been in that fucking cult. I want to see him burn. I want to see him tied to a stake. I want to see him treated like the misogynistic douchebag cuck sandwich that he is. Because good Lord. And when he makes a really shitty comment about her being impure because, she's lesbian. I'm like, I want to punch this dude in the mouth. As a bisexual man, I want to punch this dude in the mouth. And before I even came out as bi, before I knew I was bi, I still would have punched this fucker in the mouth because straight up horrible human being. And I can't wait for the reckoning of this man. I cannot wait for it. Okay. All right.
2 is called Schism.
What's that?
You know how book 2 is called Schism?
Yep.
Yeah, and Lisette is very much a leader.
Oh, I love Lisette's character. And
You're gonna love Schism.
what her companion. She's on the cover of
Which
book 2.
one?
The one she kind of has a thing for.
Oh, the Templar Kismet. Yeah, you can
thank
see her on the cover of Schism there.
Yes. God, I hadn't seen book 2's cover, so like when I was trying to imagine her, that's pretty much how I imagined her. So seeing book 2's cover, I was like, oh, that's hot. I like it. It's really good. I love the chemistry between those two characters because she's so like straightforward and is like stuff kind of, it feels like stuff goes over her head, and Lisette's like, nah, you're hot. I like you. Pick me up in those big arms.
Yes.
The drunk scene is probably one of my favorite moments in the entire
Oh my
book.
god. I love the drunk scene. I mean, what else would you do when you just leave a cult besides get drunk?
I feel like I cannot answer that question because I've not been in that situation. But I will say that, yeah, there's a lot of... I feel like I can't go into a lot of the character development without going super spoiler territory. But damn. I will say for Lisette's character development from like when we first meet her and she's kind of like to herself, she wants to be alone. She's in like all the scenes we get of, or the scene we get of her in the chapel and just like her by herself to going to being such a leader and that party member. Perfect. And I can't wait to see where it goes. I honestly have already bought book 2 and it's downloading on my Kindle right now because I'm just going to dive right in tonight when I get home. Yeah, it's on Kindle Unlimited, but support those authors. Support them. Love them.
What'd you think of Corvus?
Ooh, which one's Corvus?
Plague Doctor.
Oh, I feel like that was that
funny.
when I first met that character, I was like, oh, that's a Joel character. That's a Joel character.
Okay.
That's a
I'm
compliment,
sorry, Mr.
I mean,
Necromancer, and
I guess I am pretty quiet, so that makes sense.
yeah, you are. Except when it's just you and I, and then we're insulting each other every 5 seconds.
I honestly really like Corvus's character arc. How he kind of comes into his own. Yeah. Like as the party progresses through the story, he gets more and more out of his shell.
It's almost like
Corvus
the opposites of us.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I mean, I'm like that with new people too. So
well, here's the thing: at Social Events, Joel, you were more of the like straightforward person, and I'm the one that would be in the corner with a beer, being pretty much like Scott Pilgrim before he goes up to Ramona Flowers and he just kind of slides over. Like that's me. You're more of the hey guys, how's everyone doing? Except when we're doing this, I'm the we're the opposites. My persona on here is completely different from how I am in real life. I have built this persona, and I'm proud of it. I just cannot execute it properly.
You're doing great.
But I feel like for me, Lane, shut up. He said arguably. Lane, shut up. You remember how I was at Ball State, you dick. If I was in like the shoes of like, hey, we're going into VGO and stuff, I would probably spawn in a place like that's way out there. I don't want to be in a town. I just want to go out and grind and be by myself or try to meet up with my party members. Also, I don't think I would survive in the world of VGO because I can't bring my cat with me. So that would break me.
Yeah. Look, Lisette has to leave her cat Licorice behind.
I know, and I cried about that.
I was really sad about that because I was like, no, I'm writing... My own book's making me sad.
That's good writing. Speaking of which, where is my cat? I don't know. He's being spoiled right now. Well, I went on my little tangent and I've kind of worn myself out now.
I'm always talk about cats.
Joel, what was your favorite spell that she used?
Oh man. It's a good one. I don't know. Probably like the mitigation.
I do like the
Because, well, normally, like the only player that I can play is in Dragon Age Inquisition, where you basically just throw a shield on the person and then they're fucking amazing. So that's my healer experience right there.
bullshit. That is not your healer experience right there. We played ESO together and you played the healer.
I
in
also
ESO.
threw shields on people.
Okay, you got me there. That's all you did. You didn't ever actually heal. You just shielded.
The
Yeah.
shield's probably my favorite spell next to Acuity, just because Acuity lets her get into a lot more trouble with what it gives her. But the shield is definitely like the most useful. Just because I played Disc Priest, so just bubbles everywhere. And I remember getting arguments with druids back on during Wrath, where you would have like recount up, and they'd be like, "Ah, Disc Priest sucks. Look at how much my tree druid healed," and I'd be like, "Yeah, well, look at the damage mitigation. I mitigated more damage than you healed, so you just overhealed, wasted your mana for nothing. We would have died if I wasn't here with my bubbles."
Damn it, I'm about to re-up my subscription to WoW.
Honestly, I do the same thing in Smite too. Because remember my Sylvanas build? Carry Sylvanas. Oh man.
All right,
Just bubbles
someone
everywhere.
someone get the helicopter sounds going, like in a Vietnam flashback, and some Fortunate Son going, because I'm having some PTSD right here. Oh my god. No. Okay. Joel is not only the king of making a healer a carry class, he's also the king of DOT when it comes to playing a healer. Because I am not kidding. We have Team DOT, and that is a combo that Joel and I run on Smite, where I run a Muzen, he runs Aphrodite, and all we do is just out damage the team. Like, we'll have their tanks shredded because we're side by side.
Or dots. Or dots. Stop dots.
Oh god.
Miss Gorvis's character is just pretty much all dots and CC.
I love damage over time.
We need to talk about the party because every person in the party has a heal, right? Like they're all healers of some way or another.
Yeah, they're all different types of clerics. So it's like, oh, we're a bunch of clerics. We're calling ourselves the Amen. They're like, we're not calling
perfect
ourselves.
Perfect name for the squad too. I actually cackled at that part.
I did too. That was a great joke.
I thought it was going to be the a-holes or something at first. And they're like, the Amen. I was like, oh, that's good. As a former youth mentor at a church, that's really good. And I cackled.
And then she throws the line in there that's like, oh, we're not just men.
We're the Amen.
Are you okay, Rich? I think you broke him.
I think you broke him.
She loves her
sleep deprived right now, and this is the most unprofessional I've ever been. We just have a new comment from our first time viewer, so welcome. Oh, and they gave us a follow. We appreciate that. What I liked the most was the realism and the culty parts throughout the first book and the second one. Well, we haven't read the second one yet because we're waiting on that Audible, but like I said, I've already downloaded it and I'm going to start it probably tonight after I finish Cyber Squad. But no, the culty parts were like spot on. I've known a few people that have had to deal with cults, and yeah. I may or may not have gotten kicked out of a few events because they told me to. How do I put this? Be an asshole. So I was, and yeah. We have a new comment that the narrator is so good on Audible, and yes, Eunice Wong kills it. She absolutely does an amazing job. And I was so excited when I got to when I got done with the first book, and then I was like, all right, I'm gonna go get the second. The second one's not out yet.
Eunice is amazing. I loved her, and I loved her cosplay of Lisette. That
I
made my absolute month.
I followed her on Twitter after I followed you because it was the day that or I think it was the first week that Heartfire Healer came out. I bought it and I was like, oh well, I'm gonna go follow Emily and Eunice on Twitter, and of course instant follow back from both of you, and that made me very happy. It always just makes me giddy inside when I get a follow back from authors and stuff that I like. So, and I found her by just I think I just searched her name on Twitter and it popped up, and I saw the elf cosplay. I was like, oh, yep, that's her. That's definitely her. Oh, she does such a good job. What was it like working with her? I'm curious.
Super easy. She's so sweet, and I knew she was I was already absolutely in love with her because she's she knew Manhattan from training at Juilliard, and she spoke Mandarin, and she had an interest in basically PTSD and healing and overcoming complex emotional struggles is one thing she advocates for, and she's just a really nice person. But then when I got the notes back from her, where she would ask questions about, how should I do this, she'd also put in little comments. She'd be like, "Is this from Les Mis?" I'm like, "That's 100% from Les Mis." So then we completely fangirled over each other for knowing Les Mis, and I'm like, well, of course she would know it, but I just you're absolutely perfect for it. You picked up on all my little inside jokes and all my silly little puns that I put throughout it, and
Yeah.
many bad jokes in this book, but I love them.
Of course, we get a good comment of that's 24601% from Les Mis. Yep. We love it.
It's the code to the morgue, 24601. And so it's just is this from Les Mis? Yes. Keep reading.
I started commenting because in high school when the movie came out, the 2000, what was it, 13, 2012?
Oh God.
Whenever that movie came out, I had the soundtrack, and I drove a Jeep Wrangler at the time, and Joel and I would take the top down, and we would sing the ABC Cafe / Black and Red song at the top of our lungs while driving around in the most country parts of Indiana.
That can confirm definitely happened.
You can confirm. The amount of times we have listened to the most non-expecting music to come out of a Jeep in the top with the top down in the most red state ever. Yeah. That's yep.
Not that I need to convince you anymore to read book 2, but there's a chapter just called The Confrontation. You're never going to sleep tonight, are you?
Nope, and I work at 4 a.m. Oh.
There's another chapter called Smack My Bishop. You're going to love that one.
I'm not going to bed.
I think I broke Rich.
I'm not going to bed. I think that's a new... All right, there we go. There we have our new segment for Zeckler to start clipping. I think they broke Rich. There you go. That'll be our official TikTok stuff. Damn it. Zeckler, I told you. All right, I'll have to gift you the audiobook for the first one because it's so good. It's so damn good. And
yeah.
Anyway, if you don't know, Zeckler is he's the third member of Stats on Stats. He's going to be joining us for our full immersion show, which I think we went with the full immersion title or deep immersion. Or I can't remember what the title was, but we're doing deep dives in theory crafting, so you'll have to look out for the episode where we go into theory crafting for the Heartfire Healer.
Exactly.
And no, Sam, you did not miss it. I would say we probably have about 10 to 20 minutes left of the show. So you came in at some good point. You went off on, or you missed me going off on a little 5-minute rant about a certain character in this book, which if you haven't read it, read it. It's so good. Such a good series.
Jericho's such a dick, though. Like, I love the line where he's like, there's no such thing as gaslighting, Lisette. You're just crazy.
And I'm pretty sure I just got a notification that Zeckler. Yep, he did. He clipped it. Thank you, Zeckler. I appreciate it. All right. Joel, what should we talk about next for this? Emily, what would you like to talk about? This is your baby after all. What would you like to talk about?
So, it's an interesting story about how this book came about. So, it basically follows Lisette, who is a Chinese American doctor in an overburdened ER in Manhattan, basically in the end of times. And she ends up in the New World trying to do her best to heal everyone and discovers the plague. And it's like this curse of Sir Throg that infects people. And it's not being taken as seriously as they really should. And of course, with how the cult tries to pay for, have people pay for healing, a lot of people can't really pay for the plague, cure, so they end up going into debt over it because the Empire is kind of the bad guys. And, and you find out that the charismatic cult leader, is trying to tout this cure called Wolfsbane. And she ends up meeting this old woman, trying to find a cure for lupus, and it's this whole thing. And the funny part is, I had written all of that before March 2020.
Oh, wow.
So there was a delay in the book coming out because in March 2020, I was about 70,000 words in and almost done with it. And then the funniest thing happened. And so I couldn't mentally bring myself to finish writing this book that has themes of the community coming together at the end of times to basically show the best of humanity, of taking care of one another despite, maybe impending doom, because what else are you going to do when the world is going to crap other than keep being the best versions of yourselves? Because if you're going to die anyway, why not be a good person about it? And I couldn't sit at home, and I'm a nurse, so I pretty much put in and got a call hey, you're leaving tomorrow, you're being deployed to Manhattan. I'm like, oh, that's funny. So I spent about a month up in New York at the beginning of the pandemic, and just working every day, 14 hours a day, and then I'd come back to the hotel, and I actually had this underground black market ring that I was running with the nurses, so trying to get us supplies, where I was on night shift and we were the only ones who could get Lysol and cleaning supplies. So you could only get 2, and you had to be there right at 9 a.m. So day shift couldn't do it. So I'm like, okay, here's what you're going to do. Night shift, you're going to go get yourself 1. You're going to get another one that's going to trade. You're going to trade that for some scrub caps, which are used to trade for some compression socks. And we had this whole underground ring of trying to get everyone their supplies. And I reached out to a bunch of the other authors, and they reached out to their people, and they were able to send us food and any supplies that we needed. So I was working the donation table, trying to put them out and make sure my people had what they needed, because they gave us it per diem, but if you try to DoorDash a salad in Manhattan, it's going to be $80. So,
yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about right.
But people took care of us, so it was this weird experience of life imitating art, imitating life. And then I used that to write the last 30,000 words of the book when I got back and I was in quarantine.
Wow. So when because it takes place in Manhattan at the start. Did it always take place there, or did it take place somewhere else and then change after you got deployed over to Manhattan?
Oh no, it always took place in Manhattan. Because one of my inspirations was the game The Division. Did you guys ever play that one?
We actually did.
Where
Joel and I played it on launch because we game shared back on the Xbox One days. So we, like, anytime a new game came out, we would pretty much game share. We can't do that now because I'm only on PC.
oh, but I love The Division, and for those of you who don't know, The Division basically follows the dollar flu that gets spread starting in Manhattan and takes out majority of the population with this like viral illness that just devastates it. And so the division is called in basically as like these like paramilitary cowboys to try and make things right in the city and take it back from all the gangs and everything. And so I used that as my inspiration and used it kind of my inspiration for why there was a plague in this book, because I thought that was kind of cool. We have a healer find the plague. It's very classic. It gave me the opportunity to have a plague doctor come in because I thought plague doctors were cool. And having like a plague doctor class as a combination of cleric / rogue seemed really appealing and lots of fun to play. And the funniest thing is that I took pictures of some of the spots I remembered from the division, because the division is like a almost faithful recreation of Manhattan. And so when I was able to walk around, I took pictures of some of the locations and put them up next to screenshots I took of the division. And one of the things people remember about the division is how it was, really like snowy and cold, and there's no one on the streets. There were less people on the streets of the snowy, cold Manhattan in real life during a plague than there were in the division.
Wow. Wow. Okay. I mean, because I lived in a mountain town when this whole thing started. I lived up in Grand County in Colorado, and I worked at a grocery store. So we mainly got like tourists. They were here for skiing or whatever. So we were getting kind of towards the end of ski season when the pandemic started. And I worked overnights for a grocery store. I had just moved to the general merchandise side, but I would help out with grocery and everything because our loads were getting, either cut or they weren't showing up at all. And they would show up like 2 days later. But the amount of people that were coming in and getting verbally upset, and in one case, physically with me, over toilet paper and cleaning Clorox wipes and stuff. Judas Priest. I couldn't imagine it in an actual town or city. I just, nope, no thank you. Nope. Not a fan. So, wow. I didn't realize that you were like this far ahead when you started writing compared to, because the book didn't come out until the end of 2020, right?
Have been there were some production delays that were out of our control. I don't think it really came out till like June 21.
Was it June?
But I mean, I had finished it in 2020.
I'm trying to remember when I saw it on the Kindle shop and everything, because I mean, I talked. Oh, that's gonna bug me. I'll have to go back and look at my notes. Handy dandy Kindle. Wow, that's still really cool though. Like that you. Well, I mean, terrifying that you had to go to Manhattan during the start of the pandemic and everything because, good lord. But still, wow, that's intense. Kindle decides it doesn't want to look. Oh, hi, kitten. What are you doing, baby? So
I feel like it needs to see a cat to kind of recover from the emotional damage.
there he is. And for those who tune in, this is Lord Lunar of Lit RPG. He is the official mascot for Stats on Stats. Well, and Joel's dog, but we only care about this little man. Hat booger butt. I know.
love Cat.
He is such a good boy. He is spoiled rotten, I promise. So, sorry, there was. Yeah, I know, Kendall, you're being stupid right now, and you don't want to listen to me. I appreciate it. Thank you, though. So just short little story. With going back to the talk about the pandemic, we had gotten a pallet of toilet paper in, and I'm talking like a pallet that is as tall as my door behind me, if not a little bit taller. And I worked for the Kroger company at the time. I won't say which division of the Kroger company, but it's a King Super. Damn it, King Supers, City Market, whatever. I'll go ahead and say. But I had to like stand guard in front of a pallet of like toilet paper and stuff as we were trying to get it down the aisle, and we had to like block off the aisle and everything. But like people were in the store when it finally showed up, and I got straight up punched in the face.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't know if it was intentional or not. I had a customer threaten to shoot me. It was a fun time. I loved my job during the start of this whole thing. It changes a person.
Yeah, not okay. I remember coming back from shift and just having like all these bruises.
I'm not proud, but like this helped me a little bit get through some of it, because working third shift is just not a fun time, no matter what position you are, whether it's an EMT
Agreed.
or whatever. I mean, all three of us here, I technically work like 3.1 because I go to work at 4 a.m. now every day. So I'm like technically first shift, but technically third shift still. I get a premium. That's all I care about. Because bills. But no, it's part of the reason I started this whole podcast was because audiobooks have helped me throughout this entire pandemic and helped keep me sane, because these are my escape. These are my escape from reality, because the world is shit right now. And Joel and I decided to start this podcast so that way we could, go on and like share stuff that's brought us joy. So I think I speak for both of us when I say thank you. Thank you for writing such a great book, because like even though stuff was starting to get better and now it's kind of declining again, still I have something to look forward to. I have a whole backlog of stuff that I need to get through and listen to, but new stuff keeps coming out and I'm like, all right, let's just keep adding it. Let's keep adding it. So for me personally, thank you so much, because Lizette is such a fun character. There's a lot of creepy shit that happens to her surrounding the cult, but I love her character. I love the development we get from when we first meet her to the end of the first book, and I can't, obviously speak for the second book because I'm gonna start reading it here in like, I don't know, however long. As soon as the episode's over, I'll probably start reading it. But no, seriously, thank you. I will talk about one of my favorite moments, but Joel, do you have anything you want to say? Because you've been kind of just sitting over there.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know. Normally I focus on the mechanics, but the character development in this book was just amazing, just across the board for every single character. And yeah. So character development was freaking amazing. The healer itself was freaking amazing. Just the classes of every person in the party. Yeah. And Kismet. Buff.
All hail Kismet.
Buff Paladin.
So
yeah.
one thing I want to talk about, I don't want to spoil like the whole scene, but I'm going to talk about the scene because it did not go the way I was expecting it to go. Was when she first spawned in and she goes to the altar and takes the clothes, because she's obviously not wearing any. It's like at the very beginning when she first gets into the world and like that storm happens and everything. I was expecting Mushu to just show up and yell at her. That's what I was expecting, like a dragon to just show up and be like, hey, What are you doing?
Dishonor on you, dishonor on your cow.
Yeah, you very much do not take offerings from an altar, and
No.
that's how she gets her priest class. Is she was so desperate she took the food and drink off the altar and wakes up and goes, "Oh no, my mother would kill me. Oh my god." And she has to find a way to make it up to her.
She does make up for it though, and that was wholesome. I like that part. And then the old lady that she runs into, the elderly lady that has leprosy. Is that what she has?
She has lupus.
Lupus. That's what it is. And I was just like,
The
oh.
only reason I threw that in there is because of the house joke of it's never lupus, and then turns out the wolf's bane.
That's the first thing that came to my mind.
I don't like house.
Was
So
house.
Joel yells at me all the time. Anytime I say that I'm not a fan of house. I'm not a fan of Scrubs. I do not like anything that revolves around a hospital because hospitals scare me. And
So
Joel
the beginning was
the beginning was horrifying for me, but I loved it. I loved every second. No, Joel will tell you, like I am so morbidly like afraid of hospitals that if I say take me to the hospital, you know something's wrong.
Yeah.
I will have an
Take the time to go
anxiety
back.
attack inside of a hospital.
Hopefully your nurse is like me and takes good care of you then.
I've had a lot of good nurses, but I've also had one that wiggled a needle inside of my arm because she's like, I can't find the vein.
And don't put the needle in there.
Uh-huh.
I'm so sorry.
My mom, funny story, because so before we found out that like I was having what the doctor classified as non-epileptic seizures, just aka panic attacks and anxiety attacks, we didn't know what was wrong with me. Like my whole body would lock up and everything. My hands would lock like in a claw like motion like this, and if I tried to move my hand, I would scream bloody murder because it felt like you were ripping a limb off.
Mhm.
So I had to go get blood work done, and I don't do well around needles, but I have tattoos because you can't really see it. There we go. So they the first time I was only 16 at the time. They did blood work on me and they pulled 16 vials of blood. I'm not a very big guy. And when I graduated high school, I think I weighed 115 my senior year. I was dizzy after that, but the nurse was like, she put the needle in my arm and she like stuck me like 3 or 4 times until the nurse that was actually with her came over and actually pulled the needle out and just put it right back in the exact spot that it needed to be. But before she did that, this nurse was like wiggling around and my fist was clenching. Like I was ready to do something I don't want to do, and that's be violent because I was in a lot of pain. I was like, you need to stop. Please. This is hurting a lot. And I was actually screaming because it was a very tense subject or very tense moment for me. And I didn't know, I don't have a lot of control back then where I do a little bit more now with my anger. Joel, don't you dare say any fucking comments. I saw that smirk.
It's like an awful experience.
Oh, it was. And I've been even more afraid of hospitals ever since because they had me do a 24-hour EEG where I had to spend the night in a hospital. And I was like, I don't want to. Please, no. So I watched The Big Bang Theory that entire summer for that one night I was in the hospital. Oh, there's the anxiety. All right. So we're going to go ahead and start wrapping up. So, first things first. If you haven't read the Heartfire Heroes series, please go over to Kindle or Amazon.com to either pick up a paperback copy, pick up the audiobook copy, or the Kindle copy. I believe it is on Kindle Unlimited, right?
I think so.
So if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can, download it and try it out, see if it's your forte. Like I said, just stick through the beginning few chapters. It takes a minute to get into the game, but not as long as you would think. Stuff starts really picking up.
And it's very relevant to what happens at the end. It comes back full circle.
True. It does come back full circle. And we like circles because life is like a circle. And if you get that movie reference, we can be friends. So, yeah, please go over, support all of our authors, because if this is your first time tuning into the show, or if you're just now tuning in, I set goals for us for once we hit 200 followers on Twitch. We're at 142 as of the filming of this episode. Once we hit 15 subscribers on Twitch, we're at 4 at the moment, and what did I say? 100 subscribers on YouTube, which subscribing on YouTube's free. We're gonna do a giveaway, so that's 3 giveaway chances you have to enter. So, yeah. And whoever wins that will get to pick the series they want. And if it is a 10-book series, I'm buying you 10 books. This isn't coming from authors or anything. This is coming from me and Joel and our funding. So you don't want to miss out on this, because I don't know when we're going to do this again. So yeah, let's hit that goal. But hey, Joel.
Yeah.
I got a question for you. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitch at Sir Valor Hunter. Can also hit up the Discord, Stats on Stats. Come hang out with us while we're gaming. That's always fun. We can talk lit RPG. Also, Stats on Stats is on every podcast app.
I think we're on Spotify. I can't remember. I know we're on the big ones. We're on Google, we're on Audible, and we are on Apple. I believe iHeartRadio as well, and possibly Spotify. We are having a technical issue on getting our previous episodes uploaded to the podcast apps. There are 16 out at the moment. There was an audio issue with our Harmon Cooper episode, and I do apologize. I am trying to get that worked, but I don't have the original file, so I can't edit it. I am trying to get my hands on that, though. But you can find us on all the podcast apps for Stats on Stats. Our YouTube page is Stats on Stats as well, but if you just type in Stats on Stats, you might have a hard time following us. So go over to our Twitter page, which is Stats on Stats Lit on Twitter. I did post a link for that. Trying to get the previous episodes from Penultimate Conquest over to our channel so we can upload them. I just need to get in contact with Ruben about that. We have a huge lineup, but before I go into that, hey, Emily, my question for you is, where can people find you?
So pretty much anywhere at Godhand Author. So on Facebook, on Twitter, on Patreon, any of those, just, Godhand Author. I pretty much sat on all of them. I'm on Reddit. And then, anywhere you see that name. And then also book 3 is coming out shortly called Perdition.
Yay.
So once you finish Schism tomorrow, I imagine you'll have message in my inbox saying, okay, where's Perdition? I need it right now.
Okay, you're giving me a lot more credit than I deserve. I'm dyslexic. It's going to take me a while to get through this book.
I imagine you'll break at the first chapter title, which is a new Dawn Elf. They're a good story start with a salad, except for this one.
No, Anna's been yelling at me, Anna Mossy, because she's like, hey, where are you at in Behind Blue Eyes? Hey, or where are you at in Cyber Squad Level 2? I'm still trying. Don't yell at me. Mm-hmm. Video games have been taking over my life. We love you, Anna. Please don't yell at me later. But so Godhand Author, go follow her. Emily's awesome.
I post lots of cat pictures.
We like cats.
I like cats.
Cats are the official animal of Stats on Stats. Just saying.
Sorry, Joel.
I have cat.
He does have a cat. He has Tink.
Yeah.
I've not met Tink, but I'll get to meet Tink in August. I'm very excited. So, but you can find me over at Twitter at Rich Dolphus, where I post a lot of hot takes. My most recent take is that the martial arts in Cobra Kai is better than the martial arts in Shang-Chi. I didn't get as much flack for that one as I thought I was going to, but there's a reason I am the book expert or the lit RPG expert in the Penultimate Conquest and not the movie expert, because I think The Dark Knight's a bad movie. There's one of my hot takes. So yeah, if you like that take, go follow me on Twitter, and also be sure to check out the Stats on Stats Twitter at Stats on Stats Lit. We'll have link and everything. Zeckler, shut up! I see you booing me in the chat. You can come yell at me on the channel later. Which I probably should take away his permission so he can't just join the podcast channel to yell at me while we're live. But like I said, yeah, we're going to have our giveaways going. We have a lot of shows lined up. We are officially booked until May. We have authors and guests booked until May. And we're doing a couple of special episodes where we're going to have 2 episodes within a week. Zachary Johnson, narrator, will be joining us for 2 episodes this year. One for I Am the Bad Guy, book 2, and then the other one for Cyber Squad Level 2, because we're very excited about that. But there's also another episode coming soon where Joel and I will actually be sitting like side by side. So the whole frame you see right here for me, yeah, Joel's gonna be sitting right here instead of over there. Honestly, he might be sitting over there when he's here. So I don't know. We'll try to keep the frames together so that way we have it all figured out. But this has been Stats on Stats, Level 2, Episode 2, Boss Encounter. We appreciate you all tuning in. Please give us feedback. Let us know how we did today. We're excited to interact with all of our listeners and, people who follow us. So if you have any feedback or anything, shoot me a message. You won't hurt my feelings. Joel does that on a daily basis.
Keeps him grounded.
That is true. Keeps my God complex in check. Bad joke. Damn it. I'm not even sorry about that one. That was just really bad. So, but we appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. And to all of our listeners, we hope you have a wonderful day, wonderful night, or whatever time it is you're listening to. We just hope you have a wonderful experience.